Hi, I'm making this video, it's International Women's Day, and so obviously it's looking at the issue of women's rights, and also as a tribute to Goya, and also a thank you to Simon Sharma and the BBC staff for his programme, which, you know, I watched it quite recently, his presentation of the works of Goya, and it reignited my interest in Goya, which began many years ago when I was studying history of art, design and film at Polytechnic, and Goya was actually one of my favourite artists. I loved his realism and his surrealism that itself I felt actually reflected a reality that could only be surreal to the people who lived in the truly surreal and who claimed that this was in fact, you know, lawful order and balanced reality. So I'm going to start with this painting by Goya of Spain's royal family of the time. I think it's Charles IV or VI, is it? I think it's Charles IV, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what their names are. It doesn't matter who they are in particular, but what we can see is that they're very wealthy, privileged, powerful people who live in such a large palatial space that they are literally dwarfed by their surroundings. And the painting itself tells us certain things, that all the males are especially important. They've all got this blue sash, you know, and even the baby male has got a blue sash. So, you know, these are obviously princes. This baby, you know, grandson of a king, probably. The women, no sashes for them. She's got a little bit of a blue bow there as the king's wife. But what is she? These are chattel, aren't they? They've got no rights. They will do exactly as they're told by the men. They've been robbed of their rights for centuries. And it's very interesting that he has these two siblings here. You know, the boy prince looking directly ahead. He's got plans for his life, what he's going to do with his life, for his future. She's got nothing. She's got no right to make any plans for her life. She will do as she's told, and she isn't looking into the future issues. She's looking to the past. She's looking behind her. She's looking up at a painting while she herself is being painted to put in a painting, because she is actually more. Her life has more to do with this artistic facade than it does to any worldly reality that these men are going to take control of. And then in the corner here we have Goya, the artist himself, who's actually both servant and slave to this family, servant to the family, slave to the consciousness that has created this power structure, and that has employed him to, you know, to represent them, to portray them. And I find it very interesting how he's in the darkness here, in the shadow. They're all standing in the light, aren't they? The light of their own self-glorification. A self-glorification that keeps men like Goya, the peasant class from which he comes from, in the shadows. And I find it very interesting here, the very odd angle that he's placed the easel and the canvas here, because it is an odd angle. It is out of sync with the balance of the rest of the picture. We can see that Goya, you know, he's got a perfect understanding of depth, of perspective, of angles, and yet somehow he appears to have got the angles all wrong here. But no, he isn't that stupid. He's showing us something. He's showing us a surreal edge. The surreal edge of life that keeps this so-called reality looking balanced and normal. It's a facade. It's a facade of balance. It's a facade of order that is based on a surreal order that it then leaves the rest of the people, the majority, to live in. Because this is a lawless structure, and I will explain to you exactly why. So here we have the kind of reality that the vast majority of people are left to live within, when we live within a society that upholds this totally ridiculous facade. And you can see they're all worshipping this like a demonic figure. Well, who can say worshipping? They're afraid. They're basically being governed by it. And you can't see in this picture, and I don't think it's clear. Is it clear on here? No. It just doesn't. For some reason, difficult. Oh, here we go. See this young girl with her hands in a muff here. She seems to be sat a bit away from the scene. And this devilish character's like looking at her like, what are you doing out there? You're looking a bit too human. You need to be dehumanised with the rest of the mob. Okay? You need to get coarse. You need to get coarse. Confused people become harsh and coarse. Confused, frightened, insecure people. Easily driven to attacking each other, committing every type of crime against each other, to judging each other in their filth and squalor that they've been left with in order to keep these in their riches and finery. Because Goya lived between both worlds, didn't he? He lived partly in this world where he's employed to, you know, glorify his so-called masters, and then he also shares the reality of the world outside of their jurisdictions. And then we've got the kind of, you know, middle-class gentry, haven't we, that just sail on the backs of it all, oblivious. There they are, you know, nature as a backdrop to their ridiculous game of blindman's buff, while they all dress in their finery to play their silly little games. You know, this is the type of entertainment a confused, brutalised consciousness enjoys. You know, this horse, it's still standing, it's had its guts obviously gouged out by this bull. There's a horse dead there. There's another creature dead over there, probably another horse. Injured men. All for what? To kill a bull. There's the crowds. This is entertainment for a depraved consciousness, okay? Which Goya obviously does not find very satisfying. Now, another interesting fact here is this painting. Because these, the thugs, are exactly what this depends on. That is what they depend on. Without these men, without these thugs with guns, they could not exist. And the only reason why they cannot exist is because they create this out of society, and then they offer a few of them a higher status, lumps of gold, perhaps a nice house, education. Will you be prepared to shoot people on behalf of us? Will you be prepared to ignore people's rights on behalf of us, of sustaining our power system? If you will, there you go, there's a gun. You get nice hats, boots, you know, you get a bit of credibility in the world. You get actually allowed to rape women and children if you want as well. We'll turn a blind eye, as long as you're prepared to shoot down the opposition to our criminal oligarchy, because that is what they are. Now, he would call himself a patriarch, but he is not a patriarch, because a patriarchy needs a matriarchy. A patriarchy cannot exist without an equally powerful matriarchy. You cannot call these chattel women a matriarchy. They are not a matriarchy. They're chattel. This is an oligarchy, and here is the oligarch. Okay? He's grown in so much power, he's given himself so much power by stripping women of their rights. Look, he's literally bitten the woman's head off. He's hugely powerful than the woman. She is like a child in his hand. He has bitten her head off. She has been spiritually decapitated. That is the oligarch. Because the oligarch can't survive within a patriarchy. You see, that's why the oligarch had to cripple, topple the matriarchy in order to abolish the patriarchy. That's why Jesus explained to us our Father who art in heaven. He's not on earth. He's not governing on earth. No. We've got the oligarch. The oligarch has cut the Father down. All we have now is the youth. And it is up to humanity to raise that youth fit to be a father. But we're not. We're raising brutes, aren't we? Brutes. The brutish, misshapen mob that Goya rightfully represents. This is what humanity becomes when they're robbed of reason, right, sanity, culture. And we cannot forget that, you know, the usurpation of Christianity itself was imposed on Spain by the Spanish Inquisition. Like, yeah, as if Jesus would have supported, ever. Could anybody ever imagine Jesus supporting the Spanish Inquisition? And yet that is what was imposed on Spain. And by Goya's time, this is what it has amounted to. This is what it has created, this royal family, this miserable, misshapen, confused peasant class. Anybody that's got a modicum of understanding of what's going on is fighting for their rights. Oh, they're going to be shot by the militia. And why? Well, this is what the Spanish Inquisition established in Spain. Because we're talking about a Roman usurpation of Jesus. Because don't forget, the Druid people who upheld women's rights and honoured women, where women had freedom and choice and could own property and even ride out into battle as a warrior, they were barbarians according to Rome. Any culture that gave women, that upheld women and children's rights, were barbarians. Because to be civilised, you had to be like these, you had to be like him. Hard and cold, you know, he has no heart, he has no conscience, he has no compassion. They're all weaknesses according to him, the oligarchical male who thinks he's a patriarch. You know, you dump your compassion and emotions and kindness, it's all, that's all for women. The weaker sex. Really? So, you know, Goya's called this the witch's Sabbath. And in the same way he's called this Saturn eating his children. We know that Saturn is a word for Satan. We know that the witches, do they even have a Sabbath? Why would Goya paint this picture of witches worshipping a devilish figure here in 1798? Was that because in Spain at the time there was loads of women all worshipping the devil? No. He is showing the truth. This is a picture of the truth, that he was saying something to the people that he could not put into words, but he has embodied for posterity through time like a light shining right today into the 21st century to inform his people, his fellow people of Spain, look, this is what you are truly worshipping. This is what the Catholic Church and even the Protestant Church truly is. Okay? They are a Luciferian cult. And in my previous videos I've explained that the whole church has been a facade, that even the people of today don't fully understand. You know, you can't blame the people who are in it, who are the congregation or who are preaching in it. They've all been duped. How could they know? I know because I witnessed universal golden light being. I witnessed an event of universal golden light being. I witnessed the light. I was informed of universal intelligence, of universal law of abundance and compassion through an energy of bliss. I cannot not understand the truth, the reality. Okay, so I can say it not as a condemnation, not to say, oh, these people now must be punished for worshipping a Luciferian cult. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. But now Goya is reinforcing, confirming what I've explained, so that you do know what you're doing and stop doing it. And that includes the people of the church. Get rid of this Luciferian figure now, and let's have Jesus. Let's have Jesus, the living man, inside every man's heart, beating in his chest. Let's hear Jesus. Let's have Jesus in our societies, delivering law and justice and rights and love and compassion and kindness, and restoring women and children's rights. Look at this picture. What are these? Just look at the state of these women. Do they look healthy? She's offering her healthy baby up to this, devil goat type creature. We've got another woman here with her emaciated, starving child, offering that. A dead child here. This woman, is she hiding her child? Is she having second thoughts? Look what's happening to the children that get handed over to him. Why? Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Is it because they are devil worshippers? No, they're doing this because they believe they've been duped, conned by this consciousness, the very consciousness that created the Spanish Inquisition precisely to stamp Jesus out of reality. They've been persuaded to believe that that is Jesus. And in doing so, they are also conned into celebrating human sacrifice and participating in ritual human cannibalism while kneeling before an instrument of Roman torture. And as I have explained before, the Celtic Christian cross is based on the 4 equinoxes, the cross of life, the seasons, within the circle of time. That's the real cross. They replaced it. They replaced it with their death cross, their cross of death, their instrument of Roman torture, claiming that it's a holy object. Have people kneeling and worshipping before it, accepting that Jesus was murdered by the will of God as a sacrifice to save these from sin. All they have to do apparently is give the church some gold, and they can kill and rob and do whatever they like as long as they've got enough physical gold. But that was the horror of Jesus to the oligarchical consciousness, is because Jesus helped people understand the gold is worthless. It does nothing for life. Life does not need gold. We don't need it. It's largely unproductive. It's not part of life. The real value of gold is in the golden light intelligence that Jesus carried, that Jesus shared, that Jesus spoke out against corrupt religion. And, you know, as the Druids, the people, natural faith, look, you know, their nature faith has been demonised into some sort of pagan cult by the people who usurp Jesus. But isn't it ironic that their so-called pagan religions were the first to embrace Jesus, while Rome was killing them, murdering them for their faith in Jesus? Rome was murdering the pagans because they'd incorporated Jesus. Rome was murdering the voodoo Africans because they'd become voodoo Christians. And then it steals Jesus from them and demonises their nature faith. And then actually has them worshipping the devil, and all the time, you know, just totally duping people into believing that it's Jesus through the mechanisms of art that they've employed as a media. And Goya knew very well what was going on, and he has shown us this so-called dark period of his dark period. This is his brightest period. This is one of his brightest pictures, and it's speaking very clearly to the 21st century people of today, and especially the people of Spain. You need to wake up to it now, because nothing has changed, has it? Nothing has changed. This is exactly what is going on today, isn't it? These are exactly the same consciousness still in control today, isn't it? This is exactly the same faith they are all still worshipping to this very day, and persuading us to give our children up to it. And in Spain there's always been this, a bit of a some sort of division between Muslims and Christians. And yet why, when both of you accept Jesus, Islam accepts Jesus, the same as Voodoo Africa accepted Jesus, the same as the Druids and Celts accepted Jesus, the same as Jesus arose from the Judaic faith, and as I've said to true Torah Jews in a previous video, and I repeat again, it is about time you true Jews accepted Jesus and wrote him into your Torah as one of the prophets, because he stood up and spoke out against the exact same consciousness that you true Torah Jews are speaking out against today. The Zionists, except in his day they were usurers, weren't they? He whipped them out of the temple. This compassionate man who stood up for women and children's rights, for the rights of the poor, the sick, the disabled, to be treated like human beings and cared for and loved. Who told everybody, I am the Son of Man. You are my brother and sister. Taught us to pray to our Father. Like I say, they don't want a Son of Man. They don't want the Son of Man. The Son of Man will not tolerate them and their perverse reality that relies fundamentally on a surrealism that is then imposed as reality onto the common people, as they call them. But these are common people, aren't they? What's special about them? Look at their faces, their size, they're common people, trumped up, self-glorified. They're on a pack of lies, on myth, fantasy and absolute brutality and demonic desires. Because you see, the oligarch is an oligarch because it doesn't want to be a human being and live by humane laws. No, it's crazy. It wants to rape women. It wants to abuse little children. It's got sadistic, sick desires, depravities. And instead of arresting it, no, people have empowered it. They've empowered it. They're prepared to kill for it. They believe in its insane obsession with physical gold. They yearn for the power that this oligarch will give them on the strength of their gold, what they will do to get the gold. And you know, when it all comes down to it, when it comes right down to it, you know, and Simon Sharma in his show, in his presentation, he gave absolutely excellent commentary here, and I'm going to repeat and share it here. You know, he shows this dog in this brown sludge, literally drowning in this brown sludge. There's nothing left. The dog has no master. That this is what the oligarch reality, fantasy amounts to, because it cannot sustain itself. Life cannot sustain a fantasy. The fantasy will eventually destroy the whole of life, because it's not based on any truth. It's not based on any facts. Facts and truth are what it needs to squander in order to sustain its crazy reality, and ultimately what is left, there you go, the dog with no master, drowning in a sea of filth. And that is literally what is happening to our planet. Goya's brightest period, his light is shining to this very day, explaining the truth and reality to people. And you know, everything that I said in my previous video about the church being a Luciferian cult, that is exactly what it is. And you know, it's not people's fault for being duped by it, but it is our fault if we continue to ignore the facts of it. So thank you for taking time to listen.